Hello and welcome back to Car Dealer Live. If you're just joining us, we're going to be talking to Paul Boyce from Autovillage. But if you had already joined us at 12 o'clock, huge apologies, there was a slight technical issue. But we're back now. So to give you a bit of a recap, we're going to be talking to Paul Boyce from Autovillage. The business started in 2005, originally as a used car one, but has since developed into a two-site business, one with the used cars, the second with Subaru and SsangYong franchises. Now, Autovillage is also one of the best performing SsangYong dealers in the UK. Now, I've got plenty of questions to ask Paul in the next 20 minutes or so. If you've got anything to ask, please do drop it into the comments box and I'll do my best to ask it to Paul. So Paul, right, let's get cracking. Thank goodness you're back because I've been looking forward to this chat. Right, let's start with the obvious question. So how has business been since June the 1st, since you've been able to reopen?
Chaotic, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. I mean, in real terms, it's been chaotic since before June the 1st, James. We were operational on an appointment, sort of click-collect type basis through May. So we were pretty busy in May, albeit that was fundamentally me running the business in a sort of a full lockdown scenario. And then come June 1, it's just really rocketed again. So we've brought not all our staff back, but we have a couple of sales guys back in, and it's business as normal in terms of volume. If anything, it might be slightly busier than an historical. I think June we're tracking ahead of last June, which was a pretty good month for us. And yeah, whether it's a bubble that's now 3-4 weeks old, and yeah, it's a different world. But it's a very busy one.
Yeah. Now, it may very well be pent-up demand, but at the moment, it's demand, isn't it? And I suppose there's very much the mentality of just make hay while the sun shines, really?
Yes and no. I think yes, it's a demand. It's also, we're all behaving in a different way, aren't we? We're all trying to get used to this new world and a rather strange way of dealing, but at the same time it's also a much more direct way, I think, and we're actually finding that we're getting an awful lot more direct conversation and direct business with customers, and a lot less sort of faffing around, for want of a bit of description.
Yeah. So you said you were very much sort of operating by yourself during lockdown. What was that like? Was that sort of like a step back in time when the business first began?
Yeah, it was quite a scary moment. I mean, we closed the business. We were having quite a good March, as a lot of agent dealers would be. But it started off slowly. It was building, and then we decided to close the business really the next day after the government decision. So we perhaps in hindsight knee-jerked a little bit and closed the business down on the Wednesday, when we still had sort of some unfinished business to do and deliveries to make, but we postponed those, and we thought it was the right thing to close it and protect everybody and so on, which I think in hindsight still was the case. But I closed those doors, and I was the last one out the door, and that was a funny feeling. That was a horrible feeling. We redirected the phones. I phoned of all the dealerships to my mobile, and we went home. And basically things were, so I didn't lose anything. All the phone calls that were coming in would be coming straight through to me. How was it? It was a weird time. I mean, actually, really enjoyable in once we got over the initial shock of what might happen here, there and everywhere, and the government started to bring some reassurances in, I had a really enjoyable break for 2 or 3 weeks, because I could sit and, at some nice walks, good thinking time, opportunity to reassess the business, without the massive pressure of what might come. And a once in a lifetime opportunity really to sort of stop the business, get off and look at it from the outside in without it completely imploding. And in many respects, it's not a good thing with the COVID problem, but in many respects, it's been a very, very good thing, from a healthy thing from a business perspective, to reassess it.
Yeah, I suppose it's been very much a reset button, hasn't it? Because you've been able to sort of press the pause button, reevaluate things, perhaps bring forward certain practices or ideas that you had, which you intended to launch in the future, but you've been able to sort of possibly bring those forward. And once you've reset that button, you're sort of doing things and working differently.
Yeah, totally. I mean, with all businesses, we're a smaller business, so I'm quite hands-on. I mean, I'm quite a hands-on person. We've got, quite a lot of staff. Some of them sadly are still furloughed at the moment, but we're coping in a different way. And yeah, normally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, you get so embroiled in the business that you can't really get time to come and do the fundamental things that you want to try and do in terms of change.
Yeah.
I think what the COVID issue's done is brought forward decisions that were in our mindset, and it's made you action them instantly.
Yeah.
Rather than constantly chewing the cud and thinking about, shall I do this, shall I do that? We're operating on a completely different basis now, and in a much more direct manner, and in many respects, making those decisions and actioning things quickly is accelerates the opportunity, I think, as well.
Would you say that the current times at the moment are the hardest times that you've found during your history in the business?
Of the current run rate, no, definitely not. I mean, I think it's hard. The answer to that question is, in pure commercial terms at the moment, our business is doing okay at the moment. I mean, the big problem is what's going to happen in the future. What's going to happen, once furloughing is brought to a head a little bit more. The threat of redundancies in all industries is obviously a great concern, including our own. And so are we in a little flash in the pan, etc. And also the emotion, the heart, the person, from a personal point of view. I'm very close to our staff, and I also feel very hard. It's very hard for a lot of those our staff members who are still furloughed, and the health issues that they might be suffering potentially with the fact that they, the stress and anxiety that they have. I think for those that are back, it's full steam ahead, but for those that aren't, it's a worry, and that's a concern. But at the same time, I think from a business point of view, we probably have a clearer vision of where we want to go as a business now.
Good. Okay. Brilliant. Well, let's stop talking about coronavirus and talk about something a little bit more interesting, I suppose. So just take me back right all the way to when you began the business and the reasons why you set up the business.
Okay. Well, so I mean, I've been in the motor trade all my life. I used to work. I started the business. I was born into the motor trade one way or another. I was born into the motor trade, into a family business. So I grew up in the industry. I ran that. I ran our family business, which we had. I took over at a very, very young age. I mean, my dad died prematurely, and I was 16 at the time. So I was running a family business, and my mum was 40 something. So it was a baptism of fire, I suppose, for want of a better description, as to how I joined the motor trade, and it's probably never looked back since, really. I moved from there to my mum sold the dealerships and so on back in the 80s, and I moved into the big world of PLCs and Wadham Stringer and Wadham Kenning Motor Group. Moving on to then Lex Retail Group, where I really learnt my trade properly, I suppose. As a group, they were very, very good. I ran a few businesses for them, and then I joined a business called Amethyst, which we had a Honda dealership, and grew that. I was MD of that business, and we grew that up to 4 or 5 dealerships, and I ended up being top of a very big tree of 100+ people, but fundamentally being an HR specialist for me, and that wasn't really what I wanted to be. And in 2005, I left my interest in that business, and walked away from it really, and had 6 months to think about what I wanted to do, and decided I wanted to go back to my roots really. So I started a business called Autovillage, using the values that I've developed over the years, and built that up as a used car business. I then got a bit bored really, for want of a better description, because it was all going along far too easily. And that's the honest truth of it. And I thought, well, I need to get back in the franchising world. And so we had the opportunity with Great Wall and SsangYong, ironically. So Great Wall it was with IM Group. And and I thought, well, there's just two small little businesses that we can just build on slowly and keep things moving. And we built them and grown them, and we've got subsequently got Subaru as well, and SsangYong has been the mainstay of those dealerships, and we've constantly been we found that niche brand is a great brand for us. It's not a great brand for everybody, I don't think, but we're quite focused on it, and have been for some years, and it's a much more personable business to be involved in. One that we enjoy, and personally, I enjoy the relationships I have with them at senior level and at ground level, and the product's very, very good, and being niche means that we can sort of work between the cracks of the other brands, and that works for us. It doesn't work for everybody, but I think it's all these, any brand that's a small brand, you have to put a lot of effort in to get something out of it.
Yeah. And it's very much a brand that has developed, hasn't it? It's developed hugely since 2013. And whilst the reputation or the public awareness of the brand isn't quite there yet, it's definitely moving in the right direction, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, product's fantastic. The new range of product is absolutely exceptional. I mean, it surprises me how they have moved on when I look back to 2013 and the product then. And the product now, we've got the new Corando now as well, but they've got a nice little niche marketplace, with towing and caravanning, and the new product coming through, the new Tivoli. They've just launched the new Tivoli, which is a cracking car, and we can make margin on it. Historically we've always made margin on it, and especially on the used car side as well. And we're now in a unique position that we've built up. We're probably one of the few models of the SsangYong agencies that could be related to a more volume-related business, because we've built a database of customers over the last 7 or 8 years, and we've inherited a few databases of local businesses that have passed by for one reason or another. So our customer base of SsangYong is probably a couple of thousand, 3,000 people. So that makes a big difference in our business. So we're probably ahead of a lot of the other SsangYong agents, whereby we have a great repeat business, and obviously we're constantly looking for new opportunity. But awareness is the issue, without a doubt.
Yeah, but I suppose the brands that you represent, because they're specialists, and they well, I suppose you're able to maintain a bit of, sort of word of mouth business, aren't you? Because those brands fit well with that kind of model, don't they? It's,
Yeah.
You see, we get a lot of repeat business, and that sits well with those brands, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The retention in SsangYong is exceptional. I mean, it's quite surprising. I mean, it really surprises me. But if we all do a mail out to our database, we get definitive results from that virtually every time, and the loyalty within the brand's very good. The demand for the used cars, again, obviously, if you're sat here watching this as a non-SsangYong agent, you'd probably be delighted not to take a SsangYong in part exchange. But for us, that gives us a great opportunity, because obviously we, to a certain extent, can control our own market, which is huge in a niche way. I know that's a bit of a contradiction in terms, but we have customers waiting for certain products that we've just got lists and lists of people that as soon as they come in, we can put them straight into a car, which is really nice.
Yeah. So bit of a tricky question to answer, I suppose, but for the rest of the year, are you expecting your used car business to do better than the new car business?
Yeah, assuming we can get the stock.
Yeah.
I think when we went into lockdown, I was probably overstocked, and we had masses of stock. We probably the highest stock levels we've been at, which was a great cause of concern on the 23rd of March, whenever it was, because I was thinking, oh my God, you know, we're going to have a collapse of used car market, going to lose a bloody fortune of money here. In hindsight, it's actually turned out to be a blessing for us, because we've had the stock to hit the road running. I mean, you know, we're not a big dealer, don't get me wrong, but you know, we're pushing 40 used cars already done this month, which for us is a good return. But we've got the stock, and we've got, you know, we haven't been out hunting for the stock at the moment. We've created a lot of part exchanges. Yeah, but so used cars, definitely. Having said that, we've actually had a very positive response to new car business since June as well with SsangYong. So we've sold quite a few new cars in June to new customers, not just satisfying existing ongoing business that we had pre-lockdown.
And have the majority of those new car sales, have they been done via the internet, or are they done in the traditional way of somebody walking into the showroom?
Well, we're running appointment based. I mean, currently we're still running it in a slightly unusual way in some respects, but and our showroom doors they are actually locked at the moment. So with the doorbell there. So we're opening up. We are obviously letting customers in through the business, but we're controlling it significantly. We're a smaller business, so we're no more than 2 customers at a time. The answer is appointment driven. With walk-ins are, you know, we're not really dealing with walk-ins at the moment. We're trying to avoid that. Yeah, generally speaking, internet inquiries or phone inquiries are the way forward where we've been, and then obviously we've appointed customers and generally dealt with them on site. We're not quite in with SsangYong. We're not quite in the sort of the click and collect mode yet with the brand. So people still need to touch and feel it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that dovetails into my next question, really, which is, are people still taking test drives?
Yes, yeah, but we're sanitizing all our cars are sanitized, and we've got, you know, sort of security tabs across them all and so on. But we are letting customers out with fully sanitized cars, but it's a bit of a grey area, really. Obviously, we're not accompanying them, so we're doing unaccompanied test drives, which, you know, makes us feel a little bit uneasy in some respects. We're obviously doing all the various DVLA checks on the licensing and so on. I mean, customers are liking it, and you know, it gives customers a more relaxed feel as well. And I think, in general terms, we're all in a bit more of a relaxed. We're a bit more relaxed between all of us. The test drive, actually, in our business currently is probably not the. It's further down the line now. So we've moved you know, we're grilling and we're interrogating a little bit more, and we're getting to the nub of the deal before we take the test drive, rather than. Historically, you might just let a customer do a test drive and then try and closing it down subject to the test drive. So, and again, customers are actually being quite happy to do that. So we haven't got, at this stage anyway, we haven't got an awful lot of browsers, if you like. Most people coming in are looking at 1 or 2 cars, and they know really what they want. And we're managing to negotiate, you know, do the business that way. We're also getting into the point. We've also got online. You know, you can buy a car right the way through the process with us through our website now. We introduced that during lockdown.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of dealers have that option now, but again, it's something that we had the time to do, and we did that. In fact, I walked in this morning to an order that I had no idea about, so which was great, with finance approval. Sat there on the desk, so that was just a lovely bonus deal this morning.
Yeah, well, I suppose that is a reflection on you, really, because if that customer feels they've got the confidence to do the whole process online, and they trust you, and they trust that they're going to get a good level of service, that really reflects well on you, doesn't it?
I think I'd like to think so. I mean, we're very straightforward with how we approach customers and what we say to them, how we behave with them, and yeah, we try and do it in a very sensible way. We have a very, very, very low turnover of our own staff, so we haven't got our staff retention is very, very good. As I said, we are a smaller business, so we're not running huge sales teams, but the guys we've got all know what they've got to do, how to behave with customers, and yeah, customers like that feel. Again, we operate in a slightly different way to to the bigger groups who obviously have to operate in a different way to us.
Yeah.
But there's a customer base that loves that, at the expense of those groups as well, to be quite frank.
Great. Okay. Well, lastly, Paul, if you could, I'd particularly like asking this question. If you could go back to when you first launched your business and you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? Oh, has Paul gone again? Is he there? Paul, are you there? Paul? Well, I think Paul might have disappeared again. Like I said, we have been having some technical difficulties with Paul's connection. Well, I suppose we'll just have to come up with the answer to that question ourselves. But it has been delightful to talk to Paul. Very interesting indeed. If you'd like to be in one of these car dealer lives, then please do drop me a line, or James Baggett. You can get me on james.batchelor@blackballmedia.co.uk, and you can reach James at blackballmedia.co.uk as well. You can follow me on Twitter at JRRBachelor, and James Baggett, he's at Car Dealer Ed, and we're both on LinkedIn as well, should you wish to send us messages there as well. Now, we also set up WhatsApp groups, so breaking news sent directly to your phone. Get in touch with us if you want the links to that. And on the website, there's a full schedule of all upcoming Car Dealer Lives, which just leaves me to say thank you to Paul for being with us. And shame he wasn't here right at the very end, but thanks to him for giving.
I've come back.
Oh, he's back. Hi, Paul. I was just wrapping.
I just came back. Apologies. So the broadband in Cheltenham needs looking at, doesn't it? So.
Well, I was just.
Yeah, sorry about that, James. Just to,
okay.
I thought we'd finish as we meant to go, as we started.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Well, I don't know if you just want to answer the question that I was trying to ask you right at the very end, which was if you could go back in time to when you first started the business and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Oh, definitely. Just follow your nose and follow your instincts completely, and try not to be influenced too much by external factors. Those would be my things. If you believe in something, and you believe in it, without doubt, follow your own instincts.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice and succinct. Fantastic. Well, I think we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, Paul. Thank you very much for joining us. It has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure finding out a little bit more about the business. But hopefully it was enjoyable for yourself.
Yeah, very nice.
Pleasure. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely weekend. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, and bye-bye.